Hello there, I'm Robert McKay. The channel is Christianity on the Bottom Shelf. I went completely blank there for a second. And I can't blame it on age. I am 64. But I've been forgetful most of my life. When I was a teenager, I could go into the kitchen, open the cabinet, and say, What was I doing? So, you'll have to pardon my steel sieve mind. Some people have a mind like a steel trap. I have one like a steel sieve. This is the second video in my series on the Tulip, the doctrines of grace, 5 points of Calvinism, however you want to call them. And I hope I am making things clear as I go. I hope I'm genuinely putting the cookies on the bottom shelf. And I'm doing this, as I said in the overview video, because there's so much confusion on this subject. I want everyone to believe as I do. I believe I'm correct, or else I would change my views. John MacArthur once said that everyone is wrong on some points. He said, I'm wrong on some points. And someone asked him, well, where are you wrong? And Dr. MacArthur said, if I knew that, I'd change it. And I believe he is wrong on some points. I think his dispensationalism is wrong. But he believes it's right, therefore he doesn't change it. I believe I'm right, therefore I don't change. In fact, at one point I did change because there was a period when I thought these doctrines were wrong. I came to believe they're biblical, and now I believe them, and now I'm trying to explain them to y'all. We come now to the second of the 5 points, and that is the U in the Tulip, the unconditional election. And this is really very simple, but people get all bent out of shape over it. What it means is that God chooses who will be his people without any regard to their actions, their thoughts, their attitudes. The reason for his choice is not in those he chooses, but in himself. Well, here I put my hand here, but I'm not God. And if I ever start thinking I am God, you'll know either one, I'm totally insane, or B, I'm a charlatan. If anybody comes to you spouting this little God's nonsense, you're God, we're all gods together, you can mark it down. Either he's a nutcase or he's a liar. Because no human being is God. God is what they call transcendent. He is above and outside all of creation. Although he is also immanent, he's within us. He's very near us. He's right here. He is in this room, although obviously you can't see him. No man has seen God at any time. The only Son of God, he has explained him. And that's John in the first chapter of his book. And Jesus, I believe it was also in John, said to Philip, if you have seen me, you've seen the Father. Jesus is the manifestation of God in the world. But unconditional election. The reason God chooses anyone is not in that person, but in himself. Why did God choose Charles Spurgeon? Because it pleased him to choose Charles Spurgeon. Was it because he knew Spurgeon would be a great preacher? No, God made him a great preacher. Was it because he knew Charles Spurgeon would love him? No, God caused Spurgeon to love him. Was it because he knew Spurgeon would write a whole bookshelf full of books? No, God gave him the ability and the desire to write those books. And here come the allergies. Nothing in any person causes God to choose that person. It is unconditional. And so it's a very not humiliating. That word doesn't mean today what it would have meant 200 or 300 years ago. But it's a doctrine that leads to great humility. If I'm a Christian solely because it pleased God to make me a Christian, and my character and my words and my thoughts and my actions did not persuade him to make me a Christian, but on the contrary, as we saw in the doctrine of total inability, everything about me was contrary to God, then I have nothing to be proud of and everything to be humble about. What did I bring to God? Did I bring an intellect? I'm average, I guess. I'm no genius. There was no reason God should choose me for my mind. Did I bring to him great energy in his service? I am by temperament timid and shy. It is difficult, very difficult for me to speak with people about God unless they start the conversation. So that's not why he called me. Did he call me because he knew I was going to be a great prayer warrior? A term I don't much care for, to be honest. Well, no, my prayer is sincere, it's genuine, but it's not what it should be at all. Why did he call me then? Because he chose to. That is the only reason we can assign. And therefore, I have nothing to brag of. Paul said, I believe in Galatians, and if you've watched any of these videos, or if you watch many of these videos, I should say, then you know that I can remember the gist of a verse or a passage. I can rarely remember the address of it. I believe it was in Galatians where Paul said, God forbid that I should boast except in Jesus my Savior. He is the one we brag on, not ourselves. There are those who, whether they realize it or not, and I think most of them don't, they're honest people, but they believe that God called them for some reason within them, which means, and I'm going to put it in the first person, which means I'm a Christian because I had something that caused God to love me. I'm that good. That's what it comes down to. That's what the essence of it is. Although, as I say, I don't think the people who hold this view intend it that way. No, that's not how it is. If God has called you to serve him, it's not because you're wise or smart or spiritual or what have you. It's because he wanted to do it. It was his choice without any conditions. He chose you before the foundation of the world just because it pleased him to do so. Now, I've said before in the brief time I've been doing this series, and I'll say here, I hope you believe what I do. But whether you believe or don't believe these doctrines, I hope that at least you understand now what unconditional election is, so that if you do oppose it, you'll at least be opposing the right thing and not a straw man, as so many people do. And on that note, I'm going to reach way over there. I'll have to lean, and I'll click the button and end the video.